Good evening, friends. Welcome all to the episode number 20 of Together We Grow web series, webinar series of Change Rural India. Today, our speaker is B. Tirupat Rao, who belongs to the ECE branch of 2014 batch of RGKT. He has had an experience of 6 years in software field. He is a specialist in machine learning and a former programmer analyst in Cognizant. We welcome Tirupat Rao for this webinar on a topic called Start Career in AI ML Domain in Startups. Tirupat Rao, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Asha. Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. This is Theru. So, simply, I'm giving intro about myself. So, I am currently working as a machine learning engineer. So, I have around like 6 years experience in both MNCs and startups. So, mostly I've started like my career with mainframes. When I say mainframes, which is the starting of programming or like computers or languages or products. So from there, I have moved to my career to ML engineer, which is a machine learning, which is one of the hottest field in the current 2020. So and then during this process, I have studied and then I have participated in many hackathons and competitions, and then I topped in 17th rank in Microsoft AI Challenge 2018. So this is all about me, and so let's go to the topic. So mostly I will be telling today about like what AI and ML and like what are the areas that we are currently working on AI and ML, and where to learn those artificial intelligence and machine learning, and like how do we like build your resumes and then QA. So portfolio means like your resumes. Then so why I have mentioned mainly and startups. So that's also I'll cover up. And then it's like when people say like AI and ML, it's like only software field. Like, but I'll cover the another topic like where the hardware people like whether people are like mostly from EC and EC branches, like they wanted to work on VLSI domain. Those people also can work on this field. So I'll give the intro for that also. These are the things that I'll cover up. So let's go into the topics. Like what is AN and ML? So artificial intelligence and machine learning. Like as a definitions that you can read it here, but I'll introduce these things in layman terms. So like artificial intelligence is like a huge domain. It's like thinking of uh, a human can be replaced by a computer. It's like being a robots, or it's like simply we can say like a robo, which is in a Shankar movie, Rajnikant's movie. So something like that. That's integrates lot of domains like computer science and electronics, and then mechanical, all these things. But now in 2020, we are not in that stage. We are just like early in the stage. I mean, like early stages of in this process. So in this process, this machine learning involves. So this machine learning is just like a subdomain in the artificial intelligence. So in this subdomain is involves like computer algorithms, which takes the past information and then learn something from that past, and then do certain tasks on the streaming coming data. So it's like for a new baby, if you give a book, it's like when you give the book, right? He learns something from the book. After that, if you give some questions on that particular book, he will try to answer those things. So something like that we can analogy and we can compare it with the machine learning what it actually is. So it has like broad fields like what and all, like this artificial intelligence. So in this artificial intelligence where we have a machine learning, and the machine learning, like again, it's like a tree. Machine learning involves like deep learning and predictive analytics. So when I say predictive analytics, it's like okay, we have a data, like we wanted to forecast some numbers, something like predicting the weather reports or real estate market. So these things like the, these things like the predictive analytics means like most of the analytics field, like analytics feels like you have to uh, more like understanding on the statistics and mathematics, those kind of information. Like if you know like Excel, how the people works on the Excel, right? If they have the large amount of data, so how they will do a certain charting and then do some statistical analysis and then do some predictions. It's like most of the times like we have seen these things. And the other domain which is like people are morely working on is deep learning. So the deep learning involves like various kinds, like natural language processing and speech, and then robotics, vision. So before going to tell about all these things, let me tell you like whether it is a machine learning engineer or a software engineer, what actually startups are looking into that. And not only startups, most of the companies like look for the candidate who can be a problem solver. It's not like the domain or not like the programming language makes you an expert. It's like the candidate who can solve the problem. If like there is a problem exists, like what kind of solution that you can give, with whether it can be anything. It's not even like, okay, if you are writing a rules on that, it's okay, but are you able to solve the problem? That kind of mindset is required when you are searching for the job, whether it is a fresher or experienced people. Most of the people, like if I interview a candidate, I look for those things. So these are the things like a student has to be built up before like, okay, going and choosing the domain that they wanted to start a career. Just try to be uh, like like a person who can be like, okay, if there is a task, when how many ways that you can solve the problem, if that you can complete the task. So if you wanted to use a programming language, it's okay, yeah, go ahead. Like if like you have to take the steps, like okay, when you are studying the uh, I'm like studying the data structures. Before going to the data structures, you will start with the algorithms, like what is algorithm, like what can we do, and all these things, right? Similarly, like for every problem you have to start from somewhere. So you have to be like a candidate, like okay, if there is a problem, you have to think of like a practical way, like how you can solve it out. And the second factor that the people look into you as a fresher, or like mostly as a fresher, like okay, if he has a problem solver, like what he learns from you is like 4 years. Like okay, you have studied something, right? How you can apply those things in your career, whether it is you study in English, like I'm just saying, if you are good at an English, like how you communicate it. Or if you're like good at mathematics, right, how you can use those mathematics in your problem. So these kind of things that the startups will look mostly. The same in big tech companies also. And it's like most of the companies also now they're looking for these kind of people. So why I'm telling all these things is, right, that makes you a different person when you're working on this machine learning and artificial intelligence. Like a core software developers doesn't care. Like there is a developer and then there is a tester. This is like a standard way of how the companies are working. But when it is comes to machine learning, you have to be both. Like you have to be a software engineer and you have to be like you have to have the knowledge of two different kinds of domains. That's why you have to be like more practically think of like what kind of work you can do on this particular problem that you have chosen it. So that's where the difference will start when you're starting a career in the startups. Then now come back to the machine learning, right? So in this machine learning, you have like, yeah, as the slide shows, you have like different domains. So let's say what natural language processing is. Like natural language processing, you mostly deal with the text data, or mostly you'll handle with the text data. So what text data you will do, like if you're uh, ordering something on e-commerce websites like Amazon or like Flipkart, right, you will see like some suggestions over there, like how these guys are like how those guys are suggesting that. They'll analyze your purchase orders and your review comments of past orders, and then they'll suggest you like what you wanted to buy when you're logging into. Similarly, vision is like mostly computer visions. the computer vision, what actually they'll do is like, okay, when it's mostly you can see it in Facebook. When you upload a Facebook of your group of friends, right, it will automatically tag the names. How it is able to do that? So these kind of problems is being solved by this artificial intelligence and machine learning that we work. So how the process will happen, right, in any of the companies on this particular field. If you have like a bunch of data, like, not like, when I say data means it's not like 1 GB or 2 GB. It's like, if it is a startups, it's like they handle like some hundreds of GB. If it is like big tech giants like other data service based or product based companies, they'll treat with like petabytes of data. Once you have the data, right, you have to you have to deal with the data. You have to do lot of experiments on the data, like based on your task. Like if you wanted to, if you wanted to do some, if your data is a text data, right, if you wanted to do some clustering or classification of the data. When I say the clustering means like similar things grouped together, or classification, like if one sentence comes, like whether the sentence is a negative sentence or positive sentence, that the computer has to tell. So these kind of tasks you have to do on the data, right? They'll do a lot of analysis on that data, and they'll find a suitable algorithm for that. So that algorithm does this particular process. So this thing has been done by ML researchers as well as a data scientist. I think previously on data science course, uh, one of the guy has given this topic. So once you have this thing, right, this is like all behind the wall, behind the things. So once they have the data, they have done research and they have come up with the algorithm. So now this algorithm you need to keep into the production. When I say the production means like how the end user uses this particular feature or product. Like if you're using the Facebook, you have to use this auto tagging application, right? So you don't know like whether the backend machine learning is happening or not, but it will happen when you upload the group of photos. So like they have done some research and they have defined some particular algorithm and they have designed the pipeline, and then they move to integrate it to the Facebook app. So this process has been done by the machine learning engineer. So there you need like knowledge of two different persons: a typical software engineer as well as the researcher, as well as like you need to have the understanding of this ML or AI, how the workflow is going on over here. So that's why that's why, as I told you, right, you have to handle with the multiple things when you're working on a machine learning. So when we interview a candidate, or when we look for the candidate, especially a fresher, like, so what we really look for it, like how we interview the candidate is like, okay, we don't bother about whether like your grades or how many marks you scored it or not. So if you are good at a particular programming language, if it is AI or machine learning, mostly it's a Python that most of the companies, like 80% of the people are using the Python. So if you're good at that particular programming language, we just give you a task. Okay, if you're good at Python, okay, I have this problem, can you solve this problem for me? So you don't need to like, okay, if can you solve this problem for me, like that's what we do. If we give the problem, you have to read the problem, understand the problem. You can do Google search or whatever you want, but in a given period of time, like whether it is 1 day or 1 week, you have to come back and explain how you solved it and how you can showcase it to the uh, there we behave like a layman's, like we don't know anything about the problem. You just need to explain the problem statement, and also you need to explain how you solved it. So if you are able to complete that, the way you analyze the problem, this is how we assess the person when we're doing it in an interview. So this is mainly startups, how the recruitment is happening. It doesn't matter whether you're experienced or a fresher, the process will be the same. So but when big tech companies, what they'll do, the typical process, they will just first they'll conduct the aptitude test and all. Once the aptitude test is done, then you go and look for like other things like interviews, like tech interviews and HR interviews. and that depends on like which domain you go. Like I'm just saying typical IT things. Service based companies like Cognizant and Infosys is like have the common interview patterns, right? But now the people are changing it. Like even those companies also like trying to move to this process of hiring, giving the problem statement to the user, or like giving some of the problems and conducting interviews from the online platforms. So they're also like they'll just give the problem and you need to solve it and submit your scores. So all these processes involves mostly like you have to be master in those areas when you're starting your career. uh, so so what I would suggest for the students, right, like if you are interested in this particular domain, if you wanted to start your career in AN and ML, just try to understand what artificial intelligence and ML and what the companies are looking for, so that you can easily get it. Like if you Google it, like lots of articles or blogs are available. I'll just show like which blogs you need to see for this particular thing if you wanted to. Then try yeah then try to choose your domain, like whether you wanted to be on analytics side or whether you wanted to be on uh, natural language processing side, or whether you wanted to be on computer vision side. Just choose a one particular domain and master it over there. But it doesn't mean that you need to leave other things also. You have to have the understanding of all these things. Because like I'll say like I've started with analytics, and then I moved to natural language processing, and now I'm currently working on computer vision. So if you have this particular tree, right, you can move back in there. Like this information is not irrespective of the candidate, like whether you are from ECE branch or whether you are from uh, CSE branch or mechanical. I know like persons who have done their masters in mathematics is working with me on this field. So it's irrespective of domain. So to know these fields, right, what is your background, like what you need to have is like good understanding of mathematics. And then inside the mathematics you need to have like a good understanding of calculus, and then probability. So these things are required along with like the programming language that most of the people uses, Python. And of course R also they'll use when you guys are working, like when we guys are working on analytics. So, and here I'm going to add one more thing, like how as I told you in first slide, right, if you wanted to work on the hardware on this particular field, if you are interested to, I'm like most of the EC people always think of like I wanted to start my career in VLSI. So how this VLSI related to AI and ML? There are multiple ways. So I told you right on this slide initially, we handle with like thousands of GBs of data, like petabytes of terabytes of data. So when you process this data, right, with the computers, it's like not possible. Like it's possible now, but it's like huge cost will be there, especially if you're using the techniques of deep learning. So this deep learning requires lots of data. And the computations happens behind this. Computation means like the process, like execution time and all these things happens, like takes a 10 days, 1 month of these things. So there is a research is going on this field where you can have something. Have you like you guys might have heard of GPUs mostly like NVIDIA GPUs. Like if you're very good at if you're gaming, I'm like if you play some games, right, you will see like GPUs in your laptops or your system PCs. So that GPUs do the huge competitions. So you can build something like a GPU kind of process where this computation cost will be reduced. This is like huge research is going on this area also, like building a chip which can reduce the computation cost. And also when you're doing like once you have so you have like thousands of GBs of data and you have built a model. When I say model means when you have built an algorithm, I mean, and all on that algorithm you have trained it, and then you wanted to keep it to the edge. When I say edge means like you have to keep it on like surveillance. Let's take a vision example, computer vision example. So you wanted to build something like uh, one product where you wanted to identify whether the person wears a mask or not. So this is my problem. So in COVID situation, we wanted to know like all the ways police cannot check like whether the person wear the mask or not. So you wanted to build some smart application that a person whether he can whether the person comes that particular location wears the mask or not. Based on that, you can do some kind of events, whether to making alarming the person or just moving away from that person or something like that. So you have a data. The data consists of like the persons with mask and persons without mask, and then you have a chosen a one deep learning algorithm. So that for that algorithm you have feed this all the data and you build the model. So you made that algorithm to train on that data. Means like you had teach that all teach. I mean like you taught, okay, this is what you have to identify. So now the model is ready. So you wanted to move it to the production. So production means like you want to keep this model into surveillance cameras like CC cameras. So when you keep this model into the cameras, right? So the camera is a small device. In that, if you wanted to keep like a huge computational chip on that camera, it will be like cost is not good and not good from that from the perspective of manufacturer. So he has to increase his like he has to set up a laptop over there, and then whenever the camera feed like when the camera captures the video, it has to send it to the laptop and laptop do the inference, and then he has to send it back to the whatever the event that you wanted to do. But when you if you can think of like okay, you can build a small kind of chip like a processor which can do this inference. You don't need to train it. Once you have the model, you can keep your model into the in that particular chip, and you can keep that chip attached to the surveillance camera. So this is the domain where people are concentrating it. Like if you wanted to work on the VLSI, so here I had given two things. One, like if you wanted to work on the VLSI, what kind of problems you can see and where you can concentrate it on. And the second thing is like how the machine learning or deep learning workflow goes. Like you have the data, trained it, modeled it, and then you move to the production, which is a surveillance camera. So this is so the typical software guy just do the job, just moving it in the surveillance camera. Whereas like if you wanted to be VLSI guy, like you have to think of like what kind of process work on that particular field. So these are the areas that you can concentrate to work on. Now, coming to where you can learn all these things, I would say like most of the people say it's like, okay, go to Coursera and Udemy. Just before that, I'll say YouTube. In YouTube, you have like a lot of resources, like a lot of these courses are in YouTube. You just need to follow the particular person, or like you just need to just type it in the YouTube search window what you want. If you wanted to like to learn a particular tool or learn a particular programming language, you can go like even from the NPTELs, which we are very well versed to know that from NPTEL to Stanford courses, all these courses are available on YouTube. If not YouTube, if you wanted to proper channel with the guidance, and then you can go for Coursera, Udemy, Simply Learn for these things, and the blogs. So and the blogs in the blogs like see, each blog is like different. Like FastAI mostly concentrated on computer vision problems, and machine learning mystery where mostly concentrated like it's like just a basic applications. Hugging Face mostly concentrated on NLP, natural language processing. Towards data science, like the people who are tech people like who worked on this particular domain, they go and write the blogs on the problem statements. Similarly, Medium. So these are the blogs that you can search for those problem statements and then read those blogs. Along with that, like uh, so being a software engineer, irrespective of the domain, you have to keep update yourself. Let's say I'm not talking about the ML engineer or ML engineer. Let's say if you're a software engineer and you're working on a particular programming language. Let's say I'm working on programming language. So programming language, if it is a Python, so the Python you have like different kinds of versions are evaluating and like coming up. Python 2.7, and then 2.7, after 2.7 you have 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. So when this every day it will keep on update. Same way, as a software engineer, you have to keep on update to the latest technologies on your field that you're interested in. That's my uh, first suggestion to you guys. Like, if you're working on this domain, keep yourself update. So how you can do that? Like, let's say most of the people, like I think most of the people are using their Twitter, right? So I would say, like, my personal experience with Twitter, right? Whatever it comes, like in my particular field, I'll just follow a few persons in the Twitter, researchers. If they publish a new paper, or if they publish a new library, they'll just post it on the Twitter. I'll easily get it from there. A similar kind of like Twitter or else LinkedIn. These are the sources where you can follow the top tech people, where tech people are tech groups. So every update you can get it from there, and then you can read these articles or blogs. and and also, now I'm moving back to the machine learning. If you are keep update yourself on the machine learning, you have to concentrate on the tools that people are using. Tools in the sense like programming language. Along with the programming language, different kind of tools that we use, like I'll just mention those tools in the next slide. So those tools, how they're updating, what kind of versions they're using. So these informations also you need to keep update. And then along with that, you have to read a lot more papers to understand the problems, and then how they're being solved it. So for that, you need to get, like, there are a lot of archives like IEEE journals, and then are there where you can just Google it and then get latest papers on that. If you just type it like latest research papers on machine learning or deep learning, one of the such site is Papers Code. Like every day when there is a new state of art, like paper comes, it will be posted over there. You can go there and then read that paper. So don't concentrate on like coding and all. So if you're really interested in the problem solving, how you can improve your problem solving skills in this particular domain, read the papers. How the papers will be there, like you will understand two things from there: how the problem being studied from by the researchers, and how they solved it. Once you have that kind of information with you, you can apply those information when it comes to the real time problems when you're solving it in your company. So you always read those things, like along with these tutorials, blogs. I suggest, like, always go and read the papers which are published by like top tech researchers, like portfolios, right? So when I say portfolios, you learn all, like it's like your mark sheets. So you have studied for like 4 years, and then you have wrote a lot of semesters and weekend exams, and you have your marks in somewhere, and you will be like showing it to the companies. But what makes you to like thousands of resumes, like going to the employer? Now, like, let's say if it's a campus placement, right? Once you have aptitude test is done, like next time, all the selected candidates, you will be like having the resumes in front of the desk. So what makes a good resume? So you need to have the portfolios. So portfolios in the sense, like, once you have studied all these things, like this from the MOCs, like you have taken up the course. Let's say you have taken up the Python programming language. You have completed Python programming language from certain level, like, okay, you're very good with that. You wanted to solve one problem, so like basic problem, you wanted to do mathematical operations like calculations, addition, subtraction, and all these things. So you know how to solve it in a programming language, right? Because you have already studied from these sources. So you write a program for that, and make sure that whatever you have write, you keep it in somewhere, and it can be displayed to the, it can be, anyone can access that, like you. So those kind of things, you keep it in somewhere that we, like, there are like multiple things like GitHub is like where you can keep all your code, whatever you write it in publicly available. So that link you can mention in your resume. And and Hackers, these are like online programming tools and challenges they'll conduct. So you go there and solve the problems. They'll give some badges over there. You can use that. And then Kaggle. So this Kaggle is but mainly for this data science and machine learning for this. So this Kaggle, every day they'll post a new challenge. you can participate in that challenge, and then you can write some whatever you have learned from your past, you can apply those things over there. So that link you can keep it in your resume. So what typically you can do is, whatever the problem you find from these websites, you can write it in your own. Don't copy paste it from these sources. Write with your own thoughts, blog it somewhere, and keep it somewhere, and with these places, and keep the links in your resume. So when you see interviewer sees your resume with these links, right, they have a good impression saying that okay, this guy is already have some kind of experience with tools and coding. So it's like a rocket science to keep over there. You can I would say you can just spend like 1 week or 2 weeks to know how you can use these tools. If you are very new, I think most of the people are already using this, even students also. So if you keep those things, like it, you'll get a good impressions. Like how, like if you see a GitHub profile in your resume, right, immediately okay, a GitHub means like how code is worsened in somewhere in companies. So okay, then immediately you have some impression saying that okay, this guy is already knows GitHub and he is using it. If he has a laptop in front of him, you'll immediately go to your profile and then check what you have done it up. So that way you can get like more thing. So I would suggest maintain these portfolios. And in machine learning, it is very important for startups. We always look for these things. In startups, we always look what you have done, where you keep your work. So this way you can get it up. I would suggest like simply, if you learn something, again I will say you can get like all the things in Google. I'll just give an example how a simple NLP project can be done and keep it in a GitHub. So NLP project means natural language processing. So I'm just telling from the starting, like you need to first find the data. So you learn something from the emojis and blocks, and first you wanted to apply that in practical. So find data set, like you can just go and Google it, like sentiment analysis on movie reviews. So you can find the data, just download it. Once you download it, you learn something what NLP is, what kind of techniques that you wanted to use to build a sentiment classifier. You can do the same thing, apply all those things, those concepts on your data that you have downloaded it, and keep everything bundled, like I'll call it as a zip, and keep it in somewhere like a GitHub profile. So post this links. This is how you can build a good portfolios. So everything, like if you write a plus b whole square formula, also keep it in version control systems like GitHub and all, so that we know like okay, you have knowledge on programming. It's not like you're saying something. When you see resume, we can say okay, you know Python, you know NLP, you know C, computer vision and all. But along with, if you showcase it these links, right, okay, is we know that we really trust you, that okay, he's already knowing this. So this is how you can build the portfolios. And coming to so tools, infrastructures that we use it of. So as I told you, right, like different kinds of tools that we use when we're working on with AI or ML. You can, once you have like theoretical understanding of what AI ML is, then you can start using all these tools. Like uh, there are multiple tools, but at least as a fresher, right, you should be like, for data preparation and all, you can just check with the pandas, which is a Python library. I'm just telling with the perspective with the Python, because 80% of the companies in this domain are using the Python. That's why. So the pandas is a library which is like which will be used to just to process the data. And then a machine learning library, you have a scikit-learn and AutoML and all. These are the machine learning libraries. A deep learning libraries, you have a TensorFlow, PyTorch. You can check with any of these two things. And then once you have the data processing library and then machine learning library, you can build a model. Once you have the model, you can keep, when you're moving into the production, right, whether you need to know like what kind of web frameworks that you wanted to use. Like I would suggest, like in Python you have a Flask, very lightweighted web framework. When I say web framework, means like you can type a URL, it will give, like if you if you build a classifier for identifying whether the uploaded image is a cat or a dog, you have done some machine learning work in backend. You wanted to showcase to the showcase to the users. You just write a web UI, and then you communicate to your machine learning work with this particular UI. So for that, you can use a Flask or Fast API. These things you can use it up. So along with these tools, you can have something like, okay, people, as I told you, like this is like more competition require, right? Like if you don't have the proper laptop, if you have the proper internet connection, you can get a Google Colab. It's like Google Colab is something like a mini laptop to you. Just in web browser, you can do all these tasks. You can use the GPUs, TPUs for computation and all. Similarly, if you're like having the Gmail, you can create on AWS account, which is a cloud platform. They'll give like 1 year of free competitions where you can do all your learning and practical experiments over there. If we start a fast AI course, then they will, in starting itself, they'll say how to set up a AWS cloud instance, which is like a laptop which is in somewhere in a cloud where you can just do all your work over there. So these are the things that you can concentrate on when you're starting your career. So these things will be like uh, tools can be used in like this particular domain. Okay. Yeah, that's all from my side. Like if you have any questionnaires, I will answer. Yeah.